So let me ask you this, Mr. Strauss. When God created Adam from the dust, right?
Yes, sir.
And he breathed what into him at that point?
He breathed
Did he
life.
breathe? Did it
Specific.
say
Be more
life?
specific. Right.
The man said him breathe life.
That's what I said. Exactly. That's what I said.
Well,
You are now listening to the Hold Your Point podcast, a platform dedicated to discussing millennial culture and experience through a Christian lens, redefining who we are with cultural excellence and as children of the Most High, cultivating thought-provoking discussions and spreading the word of God with love. Hold your point.
good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Peace to the planet. This is the Hold Your Point podcast. We are the Hold Your Point podcast crew. And our platform, we talk about cultural excellence through a Christian millennial lens. And we got the usual suspects in the house, man. My name is Fortunato. We got Michael Joseph, DJ, DTH, Levi Strauss in the building. What's going on, fellas?
Yo.
What's going on, y'all?
How y'all doing? How y'all doing?
What's up? What's up?
What's popping, man?
It's good, man. Good to see y'all.
Another,
Yeah, man. Blessed to be here tonight. Blessed to be here.
everybody got big energy tonight, man. I love it.
That's right. Let's get it, man.
Hey, what? It feel like a Friday, or is it just me? Thursday, right?
It's just you. I
Nah.
think.
Well, the
Yeah,
date
it's
we're
just you,
recording
man.
is
I think it's
We
just
got one more day of the week, man.
right.
Yeah, nah.
Long week. All right, so we got a very tantalizing topic we're going to jump straight into this evening. It's kind of hard pressed for us to not be able to have this kind of discussion. The great theologian, excuse me, Calvin Brodus Jr. once said that with so much going on in the LBC, it's kind of hard being Snoop D or Double G. And with so much going on in the world today, it's really kind of hard for us to ignore the conversation of the King's return. We wanted to talk about that a little bit, man, with just some of the times and the signs that we're seeing and what we should be looking for. And, just there's a whole lot of different aspects we can get into, but we're going to just spend a little bit of time, man, just kind of talking about what that moment, what that opportunity would look like when, those skies break on that day. So, first thing I wanted to ask y'all, man, just right off bat is, what do y'all think it would be like the day that the skies break and Jesus returns?
Whew. Listen, honestly, there was a time where I used to think about that like a lot, like all the time, like every day. A lot of times when I be driving out on the road, I'm wondering if it's gonna happen while I'm driving, And I try to imagine. We talk about him bursting through the clouds, right? And I'm just like, yo, what if it happens right now? So I honestly I can't imagine fully what that'll be like, but it's both nerve wracking and exciting in a good way, honestly, because for those who belong to him, who worship and serve him, such as me and you guys, it's going to be a great time, a happy time where we're going to move into a new age. But it's scary. Like it's a whole different coming into a different type of existence that we've never known. Like we know how life works and operates in this way, but it'll be completely different. So I mean, scary but happy. Definitely people who are not in line with Christ are gonna definitely have a very specific feeling. But for others who follow him, it'll be a good time.
Yeah, no, I definitely feel like it's something that a lot of people have thought about, if not everybody, at some point. Like, if you're a Christian, like, what's the end going to look like? You know what I'm saying? And definitely, like, being from a Christian background and all that, one of the things, like, I definitely think about is, like, I feel like it's going to be loud. I feel like it's going to be very different, like DTA's mentioned. I feel like it's going to be a lot going on. Which can be scary, as he mentioned, And like when I was definitely younger, or even sometimes to this day, and you think about what that would be like, and it's kind of definitely a little bit like, man, like what's going to be going on. You read about some of the stuff in the Bible, like trumpet sounding and clouds bursting, and you hear these things, and like some of the stuff you see, like stuff coming down from the sky, and angels all around, people coming up from the ground, like it'll be intense. And for like especially if you're alive during that time, and it's like everything's going on. I encourage everybody to read the Book of Revelations if you get a chance, because that thing will move your soul.
Yeah, and the reason I asked, because like I thought about this question, and it's like, I mean, like just to kind of think about it, like from a perspective of like right now in 2022, where like it says that it'll be a sound that'll be heard around the world, and like just to think of like the dynamics of that, where like there is something that's audible where everyone in the world is going to be able to hear it at the same time, like the magnitude of that sound, and how that's going to just feel in a physical human sense is probably going to make everyone like initially like afraid, like the world is crumbling, or it's an earthquake, or a hurricane, or something. Like people ain't gonna know what to think of at first, and it's just like like I'm just like, I mean, and then the thing too, like a lot of times I think about it like, oh, it'll be like a bright Sunday afternoon where it's just a clear sky, and like, but it might be like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning when people really ain't expecting it, and it's just like now this dark sky is parting, and here's Jesus that you can just see in the. But
But that's something to think about, because for some people it will be nighttime. I mean, it's not nighttime and daytime for everybody around the same time, and that's something I thought about. I'm like, how is that gonna work? Like everybody's seeing it at the same time, especially, I'm definitely not in the flat Earth community people, but I would say, like, how would that work in that sense? Because if he's showing up, if you think about it, in the clouds on one side, like how the other people on the whole side of the other Earth supposed to see him? Like, I don't know. Like, it's just the physics of it. It seems kind of thing. But like I said, we're not supposed to understand. We see dimly through this glass nowadays. So, but it's definitely something to think about with your point, because the Earth is round. Like, some people's gonna be nighttime, some people's gonna be daytime when he comes.
And to add on to that, Revelation 16:15, behold, I'm coming like a thief in the night. So it's definitely going to be at a time when people are not expecting it. And sometimes I've often thought of, like, is literally the only thing holding him back just that someone in the world is presently thinking of him returning, and he's just waiting for them to not think, and then that's when he's going to come. Because if that's what it's going to take, because I mean, what if someone's sitting there waiting, like right now, like, Lord, you coming, I'm just here, I ain't got nothing else to do but just expect you, right? So he's not going to come, because he's going to come when no one expects it.
I feel like everybody always has those kind of thoughts, because as I know we're talking about the coming of God, but honestly, sometimes I just think of death. Sometimes just like, you mean, I'm saying airplane. I'm gonna be in the airplane tomorrow. But sometimes you be in the airplane and the turbulence hit you. You just be like, Lord, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Is this it? You know what I'm saying? So you're always gonna have those thoughts. There's always somebody with those thoughts in the back of their mind. You know what I'm saying? So.
Yeah, man. It's funny, growing, not to prolong the question, but like growing up, there's actually this song. It's like a skit. I don't know the song, but before this song, there's a skit, and it's talking about like how it's the series of what's going on at the moment, where you have like news reporters coming out and nobody knows what's going on, and you see like Levi said, grounds being upturned, some people not being able to go because you see people raising to the sky and some people not. So, like I said, nobody knows what it's going to be like, but my question is, you think, like you said, some people are going to be left behind, and a lot of people are not going to know what's going on, and the reason why, because they're not chosen.
Yeah.
I mean, I think even in that moment, like, I think it's going to be like,
like confusion.
It's gonna be like, well, not even just confusion, but it's just gonna be like a aha moment for a lot of people. On either one side of the coin or the other, and like because even with this whole like thing that just that's kind of been going viral or whatever on talking about you can't be Christian and do witchcraft, and so many people that's like supporting like witchcraft to say they ancestors did it and stuff. And I thought about like when that day comes and they still clinging to the things that's not like real, like it's gonna be some real aha moments for some people to be like, dang, like we thought we had it right this whole time, like so.
So, like, for the people who don't know God and only like don't fear God, you think that it's really going to be an aha moment, or is there
Must.
like?
It must.
I think so.
Every tongue, every knee
I
shall
mean,
bow.
eventually, what I'm saying they're gonna, but
You
for
mean
the
like
people
at
who
first?
don't, yeah,
Well, it's interesting. I mean, I don't know. Maybe at the very moment they wouldn't be too sure, but the scripture does talk about how, what is it, Revelation, I had it here for a second. Revelation 6, verse 15, right? And the kings of the earth, and the great men, and the rich men, and the captains, everybody's going to hide themselves in dens and in the rocks of the mountains, and they're going to be like asking for them to fall on us, because the face of him that sitteth on the throne save us from the wrath of the Lamb. So there's only one Lamb. There's no other. So I I do think they'll have some kind of enlightenment or some kind of sense that this is the one from the Bible that everyone was talking about, the same one that we used to denigrate and badmouth and say was fake. Like, this is really him. Like, I don't think they're gonna think it's Buddha or Krishna or something else. I think they're gonna have that knowledge, at least at that time, that this really is Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and then it's like, and even if they don't know exactly like who it is, just the sheer magnitude of again like that sound and the vibration that it's probably going to cause. And then when you go out and you look up and you see like this, this figure, this man, like this being that's in the sky, and I'm sure he's not going to be 5'10". Like in that time frame, like they were still maybe 7, 8, 9 feet tall. So you see like a giant as to what we would consider it now hovering in the sky. Like it's gonna be a lot of people, even if they don't understand, they're just gonna be scared. And the people who do understand gonna be scared until like what I'm saying, like they start to kind of set in and just remember like, okay, what's really happening. But that initial experience is probably gonna shake everybody.
But do y'all think it's actually gonna be a sound that people will hear literally throughout the world? Or I'm asking because like I'm wondering, how much do you think modern technology will play
Just about to
into
say that,
some of these prophecies, right? Because if it's something that everyone's supposed to hear and everybody's supposed to see, I'm just thinking if it's a sound, right? Like there can be sounds, I guess, in a local area that can maybe bust your eardrum, potentially, I think. So if it's gonna be something that can be heard around the world, everyone's eardrums, if it's that loud for everyone to hear around the world, you're gonna go deaf. So then maybe the hearing, could it be that it's going to be facilitated through your cell phone, TV, media people, something like that?
I think
Because
some of
again,
it.
this is. Oh, go ahead. My bad.
No, I was just going to chime in there and just say I think some of it definitely will, but I don't know about for everybody because some people just don't have that stuff. Like how would they hear it? What I'm saying, people in the complete woods and stuff. But I feel like God will definitely use that stuff. I feel like there's definitely going to be like TV's coverage, social media coverage of that noise, all kind of stuff. And even as technology goes on, who knows how far in the future? Nobody knows the time of the hour. How far in the future technology is going to go? Like we're probably going to be able to hear this stuff like through anything. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
go
Well,
ahead,
I mean,
DK.
Jesus actually mapped out what you're. I guess he kind of gave some clues as to, when to be expecting them. I don't want to say when to be expecting them or what's going to actually partake, right? And then there's a few different things in which he actually lines out, or he actually states. One thing that I kind of had a question on was as far as when he says the people will be persecuted, right? I, I kind of was stuck on this verse a little bit because, and you said people will be persecuted. There'll be wars, and rumors of wars. There's a few other things that I'm actually missing out. I'm sure you guys can fill in the blanks with that, but I wanted to get you guys' take as far as like some of the events that took place, especially like here in America, or other regions of the earth. Of course, the main thing that comes to mind is the 400 years of slavery, right? That African Americans and perhaps other ethnicity that was within that, right? Within the 400 years, like, and I'm sure out of all those generations of people, somebody was a follower of Christ, right? Somebody probably was somebody that followed him on, perhaps our religion or whatever, which, what I mean? What's y'all take as far as with that? Because I would think like, hey, your people here is persecuted. You know what I'm saying? Just trying to get y'all guys take as far as, the signs to look for what has happened already in the past.
So just to jump in real quick, well, a couple things. I think a lot of times, like, we expect God to work on our time. And our time is a lot slower than God's time, because in God's time, like, a day is 1,000 years. So like these things that like 400, 500 years ago is still like in the same day, pretty much, as far as like, God's time it might be considered. So like, God's timing as far as affecting things is, it might sound cliche, but it's still right on time according to his timing, because he doesn't operate on man's time. That's one. But I think the other thing too, I think there's a misconception where like, yes, black people in America was in slavery or whatever, 400 years, whatever the time frame was. But we can't make a blanketed statement to say all black people or all dark pigmented people are God's people or lost tribes of Judah, because it doesn't work that way. Like, the Egyptians were dark pigmented people that also had descendants. Africans were big dark pigmented people who had descendants. And if you line 5 black brothers up in the islands, they all can have different backgrounds and genealogies, and one of them might just actually be from the lineage for real. So, and it's not to take away, like, I'm not having no Kanye moment in regards to slavery. Like, it's not to take away like the injustices that we face, but I just like, I don't think like it's a fair assessment also to say like those were God's people and like he just ignored them without like, just knowing for real.
I would agree with that too, because, well, for the first part, like, because it kind of goes with the question I was thinking about as well, which is, how is it that every group of people feel like Jesus is going to be returning in their time? At least from my perspective, I feel like everyone's always expecting. And the thing is, like, we're supposed to have that expectancy and on guard, right? But like, literally, Paul, the Apostle Paul, thought he was going to return in his time. And Paul was right there with Jesus. So, you know what I mean? Like a couple decades after. So from that time up until now, every generation is like, he's coming in our time. And obviously it hasn't happened yet.
I think because perhaps some of the things that people go through, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm sure every generation like was like, oh, because can you imagine like being in New York when you seen a plane crash through a building? Like, I'm sure that was like, very a traumatic experience, right? Or you could just go down to, that's why I brought up slavery, because like obviously that's a traumatic experience for everyone involved in that, right? So like every 10, 20 years you go through these traumatic experiences. COVID, you know what I'm saying? The COVID that hit the world, right? Now everybody's just like, man, you know what I'm saying? What's going on? I'm sure we was all at the crib like, man, is this the ending? I'll never forget. I was watching a basketball game. They literally cut the game. Right? They stopped the game because like there was, I think some guys actually had the virus. So I was just like,
Yeah,
bruh,
Rudy.
you know what I'm
Rudy
saying?
Gobert,
What's going on, bro? Is this it? Is you know? But like I feel like this is probably has gone on from probably the 50s, 60s, 70s. So that's what I was, trying to get y'all take on.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you said, every generation had it. My man, hold your point, man. Every generation has their what they call doomsday. They think doomsday, and like at one point, I don't know how old some of our listeners are, but Y2K was considered. They thought that it was going to be the end. You know what I'm saying? And
that was big.
like, and this, I don't know, this guy named, I forgot his name, David Mead, I think. He was going around on the radio just saying that the world's going to end in October 2007. And a lot of people believed him. You know what I'm saying? A lot of followers believed him. A lot of people that listened to him, because he had this theory and he came up with these evidence on why the world. So, but here comes October and it's just a nice bright sunny day. You know what I mean? Because they thought that was the end. But if you're a true follower of Christ, you don't know when God's coming. Like y'all said, y'all could be driving or sitting on the toilet. You don't know. At the end of the day, he's coming when he chooses, and that's the time that you're gonna find out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, there is no definitely no one. We can definitely agree. No one knows the time or the hour and all that. But I mean, I want to say there is definitely like going to be signs. The Bible does talk about signs and stuff like that. Stuff that's supposed to happen.
Right. That's what we
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Like in Matthew 24, it's talking about nation going against nation, kingdom going against kingdom. There's the famines, pestilences, earthquakes in more diverse places, stuff like that. Like, and you see that stuff kind of happening no more today. Like even like the past hurricane, we all live in Florida. The past hurricane we had, like I don't know if any hurricanes ever had this much like flooding. If like some other stuff is that, but the flooding for this one was like really bad. So like that's something that's new. Like we've never seen that. Like there's stuff going on all around the world nowadays that's brand like not new, but happening like more.
Water.
Yeah, it's happening more severe. It's happening. Yeah, it's happening more severe. It's happening more severely. It's happening more frequently. It's happening more powerfully. You know what I'm saying? So the times this coming.
So let me ask y'all a sidebar question. Y'all don't think history repeats itself?
Certain aspects of history.
Yeah, to a degree, it does.
I mean, because but it just gets more severe as time goes on. I mean, because look at COVID. That's not the first time people had to walk around with masks, but it was a mass killing. Look at wars. You know what I mean? Like, man is like it's all it takes is one person to push one button, it can wipe out a whole country.
Yeah.
But it's just history of past people. Like take the great wars back in biblical days. It's just a lot of history just repeating itself. So y'all don't think history repeats itself?
Yeah, I mean, I think history repeats itself, but it's not without a aggregator, I guess, if that's the right word. Like because like the enemy is like the one that's constantly driving like the whole marketing plan for Earth to get as many people to fall into the misery with him as possible. So like everything from the music to the political office to like the wars, like everything is pieces of it. Yeah, like so if there's any aspect that he didn't have a piece in, hopefully by the grace of God, the church is one of them. But like there's just everything that's mainstream that's out in the world, like he got a hand in or a piece in. So obviously that history is going to constantly keep repeating, so people don't stray away from that message, so to speak. I guess if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think also too, we know that in Ecclesiastes, the word says that there's nothing new under the sun, right? So, that means things, while they may be presented differently or they may be manifested in a different way, essentially the same things are happening. Like when you think of pressures that children go through, Like, I really try to tell younger kids today when I can, like, listen, man, if someone like me or older give you advice, like, you may think, oh, you don't understand it, you don't know what I'm going through. Like, look, okay, maybe older folks didn't have social media, right? But if you get to the crux of what's going on, it's peer pressure. And everyone has dealt with peer pressure. You know what I'm saying? So, like, there's nothing new under the sun in that regard, and in regard to what we're talking about now in terms of wars and pestilence and famines and things. And you know, when I think about what DJ asked, it's kind of like, I think everyone's only lived in their own time period, so they only really know their own struggles.
Right.
So for everybody, it seems like, yo, this is the worst the world has ever been, but this is all you know. So, like, I guess it kind of answers my own question too, was like, why did everyone think Christ was returning in their time? Not when I say everyone, I mean Christians, right? Because other folks don't even know what's going on, but they're going through some really tough times themselves, but that's the extent of what they know. Yeah. So
I mean, but not for nothing, like, we've experienced like a lot of firsts. I mean, or record breaking, whatever it is. And not to say like the record hasn't been broke one time before for us to get to a new point of breaking a record. But I mean, just as of late, like with, heat indexes or just whatever it is, like we've been just breaking records with a lot of things as of late. So, but I mean, like, to your point, 50, 60 years ago, I'm sure they was breaking records with, oh, today is the hottest day ever recorded in America. It's 95 degrees today.
That's based upon their time. I mean, it could have been hot back when Columbus dropped, well, we don't know who really just discovered America, but you know what I'm saying?
When he discovered it,
Hey, so I wanted to ask y'all too. I mean, well, there's a couple different things I want to ask y'all, but the first thing I want to ask, like, so since we talking about like, the return and Jesus' return and what that day will be like, the piece that precedes it is like the mark of the beast. And I know that's a whole nother topic by itself.
I'm just thinking about that earlier.
I'm just trying to like, smooth over it as quickly and efficiently as we can. But I was thinking like, I don't know if y'all seen the video, like I think I shared like a couple weeks ago, where they have like these palm scanners like in some of the Whole Food stores. Amazon. And literally like, yeah, and like the methods of it makes pretty good sense. Like it's pretty like convenient when you think about it. But it's just like, dang, like, is it going to be something as subtle as just like a technology advancement where it's just like it gives us a new level of convenience that everyone taps into? Because, I mean, that, like, the Bible prophecy says that they'll have the mark in their hand or their forehead, right? And I'm thinking, like, if they got these scanners now where literally they can scan your palm, register it in the system, you put in your debit card, and every time you scan your palm, it'll just link to your debit card. It sounds simple enough. And, they can probably do the same thing like with your face, or maybe we got like unique forehead printing or whatever, something that they can manipulate. So I'm like, dang, what if it's just something as simple as that? Like people just stop using debit cards and cash and they put in their palms or swiping their foreheads to pay for everything.
At the end of the day, I'm a bad DJ. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, I don't remember what the brother name is now, but Fortunato, repeat what you just said about the hand and the forehead thing real quick. Where about the chip? Go ahead.
Well, in the Whole Food stores, they have like scanners that they're implementing.
As far as the mark of the beast, you said it's gonna be like on your hand and your forehead.
Oh yeah.
Okay,
right.
So I heard this brother say, so it's TikTok. You know what I'm saying? I heard him on TikTok. Take it if you want, leave it if whatever. But he said the mark of the beast. He said when you think about the chip, he said the mark of the beast. He said the cell phone. And when he said that, I was like, oh, that's interesting. You know what I'm saying? The cell phone has a chip, and then he said the cell phone is in your hand, and then you put it on your head. You know what I'm saying? To talk. I was like, oh, that kind of hit. That kind of hit. You know what I'm saying? That kind of makes sense when he said that. And then just like how you just said, you got to make purchases with your palm. We're already making purchases with our phone. We're already doing the purchases. And, just the phone, this phone is hurting a lot of families, hurting a lot of people. Like, it's cell phone, man. Just like DGH just said about these kids and the technology. It's the phone. It's the phone that's causing them to be more depressed or whatever he just said. So I don't know. Like I said, take it if you want, leave it if you know what I'm saying. If you want, I don't care. But I just thought that was pretty interesting when he said
I
that.
get it. I mean, at the end of the day, call me naive, but I think we just evolving as humans. To be honest, I mean, it's scary to think about it, but you gotta think about what's gonna happen 50 years from now. We to make a purchase with your hand is gonna be old school. You know what I'm saying? It's just we're evolving as humans, and we're able to have because here's the thing: if it's convenient, it's laziness. And the fact that you don't gotta carry cash no more, you ain't gotta be standing up there to count. Oh, I got a 20. Can you break this? That's what they're trying to. But where the problem comes is these major companies and these consumers, if you want to call them the mark of the beast, they're making it easier for us to spend money, and that's where the problem is. But as far as technology evolving, like I don't. It's no different than us swiping our card or tapping our card than tapping, giving the machine a high five. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of feel you. Go ahead, my bad. Go ahead.
No, I was actually going to resonate with DJ. Usually, I'm the non-conspiracy person on here, but nah. I would say when I first had the Apple Pay thing, I've thought of that. I was like, yo, this is a little weird, a little bit. Like it kind of made me think a little bit. Like, and to Mike's point, like, what if one day you can only pay for stuff using that, and in the future they have a device that's connected to your head, and it's an Apple head or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like I ain't trying to give them no ideas. Hey, chill out. Whatever. Apple head. But anyway, but I'm just saying, hey, technology is evolving, like you say, Mike. Like you'll never know where it's gonna go, and where it can go to that control factor, and that's where the mark of the beast comes in. Is that control?
Yeah, I mean, I feel you. Like, I think, like, to Mike's point, though, like, I think a lot of it is technology just advancing because, like, 10 years ago, like, none of us were just tapping our debit cards on machines. I can't remember the last time I swiped my debit card for anything. Like, I'll just go in there and tap the screen and, and keep it moving. And it's, not to say, like, it's anything bad. And I think, like, even with the mark of the beast, like I think it's going to be clearly identifiable. Like I don't think you'll be able to be rocked to sleep and just like, oh, I didn't know. Like I think you'll have to make a conscious decision.
I agree with that too, because I think
agree with that.
Because I mean,
the mark of the beast is these taxes.
I think you're going to get rocked to sleep because I see you kind of soften up on your blow when I say the cell phone. But then when you was on the palm, it was like, but when I say the cell phone thing, now you say, no, it's advancement of technology.
I mean, yeah, because it is. Like, it's just like anything else, like 20, 30 years ago, like before the internet came, like what some of these Christians who was already 50, 60 years old was trying to say about the internet coming. Or, just anything else like or examples that we can look to with Caribbean culture where it's just like anytime those doors have been closed, those things now become taboo, whether it was education, more finance, whatever else. So, I mean, I think it's just like understanding what it is and not being manipulated by it. But, the technology is going to come regardless.
I mean, my bad, DJ. Just say it real quick, like, just to say that, that's the mark of the beast. We might as well say an escalator is a mark of the beast or an elevator. Because then it's like, it's advancement, you know what I mean? Bad, DJ, go ahead.
I think there has to be some more to it, though, because, like, the beast, the mark of the beast, you guys gave an example a while ago about credit cards. Like, I mean, these are things that never existed in the past. If somebody from the first century saw that, hey, this is definitely the mark of the beast, right? But I don't think anyone believes that today. But when I say I think there's more to it, I think there's more things that the Bible says about the beast, right? So, yes, you'll have those who accept the mark of the beast will be able to buy and sell and do certain things. But also, I think, if I'm not mistaken, and that's probably where I got to do a little more research, but there's going to be worship of the beast.
Yep.
So I think that's another
You're,
thing where we got to look
you're,
at it, where it's like if you're not, if you're going to be forced at some point to, and when I say worship, maybe that's taxes, maybe it's something else, but there's going to be some type of forced
Allegiance.
allegiance. There you go,
right,
towards
right.
some the beast, whatever that is going to be, however that manifests. And if you don't have the mark, you know, that would be the sign that you're not doing that. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's
So
another.
David said everybody need to stop pledging allegiance to the flag immediately.
Well, I stopped doing that a long time ago. So shoot, I make sure I sit down when I think, come on.
Lord of mercy. But nah, to DJ's point real quick, I just want to tap on, like, some people will kind of be deceived. Like it says, like some of the very elect, will be deceived. So I mean, some people will get fooled, by what's going on. That's why it's good to be prayed up, stay sharp in the word, keep your sword ironed.
And
Even life, period. Like I feel like a lot of times, which I may have said this on a podcast, like we should really get away from just reading the Bible. Honestly, like there's so many things, or we have to know what's going on in the world around us, right? And don't just listen to CNN because you know what I'm saying, they painting a false narrative to what they want you to know, right? You got to read on all sorts of things to know what's going on in the world. Plain as that.
That's facts.
That's good.
so I wanted to ask y'all another question real quick, right? Because we talking about like Jesus returning and coming down, breaking the clouds, what have you. So if we are all on the same page that that day will be like evident where Jesus is returning, do y'all think like people die and go to heaven now?
What do you mean go to heaven?
Like just how people like understand it, like from a worldly perspective, like when a loved one
So you
passes
think
away,
that-
like they go to heaven.
No,
So
I don't.
and-
I
Go
don't
ahead,
believe
go ahead,
that.
Mike.
Go ahead, Mike.
Go ahead, Mike.
no, I was just trying to I guess dummy the question. So that, like heaven's a location in a sense.
Well, yeah, I mean, but you know
Place.
how people be like,
Place.
oh, they
Just reigning with
they
God.
up there,
Yeah. All right. Yeah.
and they be like, oh, they smiling down on me, my
They
grandma
watching
up
over
there,
me.
or whatever. Yeah.
They say all dogs go to heaven. So I mean, don't know where that's at. But yeah, go ahead, man.
Well,
Good, Tid.
yeah, well, I'll say, I mean, I don't think there's any scriptural support for that, but obviously it's something that's said very often. I guess it's very comforting for folks to know, hey, my loved one passed on and now they're in heaven. They're not suffering anymore. I mean, it's a nice thought. Again, I would agree that they're not suffering anymore if they pass, because if there's no life in you, there's nothing, there's no feeling, no nothing. But like I said, based on what I've seen from scripture, I don't know if there's anything to support that. So it's just, I'm not exactly sure where that originated from. I'm not sure if it's like a specific teaching of a specific sect of Christianity or not. But I don't believe that personally. So, I'll just leave it there.
So, just to kind of throw something in there, like if when the body, like when we pass, if the soul returns to God, right, and we're spiritual beings, doesn't that technically mean that people then go to heaven? I mean, because if we're souls wrapped in a fleshly body, and then that soul then returns to God once the fleshly body is no more, is that not a technicality on people going to heaven?
That's a good question. I think, that's why when DJ was like, what do you mean by that? There's certain interpretations where you could say yes, I suppose, because I mean, the way you described it, right? It would sound like yes. I think the difference, though, I think what most people mean when they say that is that person who has passed, their soul is conscious and is aware that they are in a certain place and that they are walking the streets of heaven or something like that. And I think that's the meaning that I would, stray away from. But as you said, the soul, the breath returns to the Lord.
That's what I was gonna kind of chime in on. Go ahead. I was like, is it the soul or is it the breath? Because I mean, like, it's something that I feel like is not necessarily like you going up to God back. You know what I'm saying? It's just Him taking back the breath that He gave into your life, and so that's
when God,
your
when
body's
God,
still there.
So let me ask you this, Mr. Strauss. When God created Adam from the dust, right?
Yes, sir.
And he breathed what? He breathed what into him at that point?
He breathed life.
Did he breathe? Did it say life?
More specific, right?
The man said him breathe life.
That's what I said. Exactly. That's what I said.
Well, I mean, because like
Final answer.
if the text says that he breathed the breath into him and Adam became a living soul or whatever, then breath and soul are interchangeable when it comes to the word. So
I'd have to look at that if it's interchangeable.
I agree.
If he breathes the breath into him and then he became the soul, we're gonna have to look into that one.
What other process is there? Yeah, like
I'm not saying the soul goes back to God, is what you're saying, but he breathes something else into Adam. It wasn't his soul that he breathed into him. He breathed the breath of life.
So the breath of life isn't
the soul that we get from God.
What is the breath of life?
I mean, we you know what I'm saying? It's all technicality.
So wait, yeah. I mean, we kind of straying from the question. Like, where is heaven? Like,
I think we need to play the music.
Yeah, we go back. I mean, so all right. So when you at a funeral, they sing the song "Going Up to the Altar." You know what I mean? Like, where they going?
Going up to the altar. I thought it was yonder.
Yonder, whatever. Yeah. Where they going? Up yonder. Where they going?
I mean, I just said that like as a. Go ahead, DJ.
No. I was just singing the song. I'm going up to yonder. Don't mind me, y'all. I'm sorry.
All right. So I'm gonna put it like I think. Look, I don't know. Growing, I think there's a heaven. You know what I'm saying? Where it is.
Of course
where
there
we
is.
going? When I say it like that, I mean like, look, if it's on a sense where it's something comforting for us to think that our loved ones passed on, then hey, but they say the Bible says that we won't recognize each other. We will, but we won't. You know what I'm saying? When we see each other again in the kingdom.
I feel like
the kingdom.
I feel like we should definitely have a separate day to touch on this podcast. I mean, on this topic, honestly, it's pretty deep.
It's breathy.
Yeah, it's
a lot of breath.
I mean, I said it facetiously, but when you look at the text of what the word says, like the breath of life in the soul is interchangeable. I mean, and even though I agree to what DTH said, I don't think the souls return in a fashion where they're conscious of the fact that they're in heaven and so forth, because if that's the case, then we would have recollection of what happened prior to us coming into our earthly bodies. So the souls probably go back to God in the dormant sense, but it's not to say people are in heaven,
Yeah,
but,
playing yachts.
But yeah, I think it's definitely yeah.
Saying what's up.
Right.
Yeah, 100%.
It's definitely a bigger topic. I don't know if y'all had any other questions that y'all want to jump into real quick.
I mean,
this was good.
Yeah, it was good, man. I mean, it's a big topic. It's really interesting to think about, man. Thought-provoking topic. You think about the stars from heaven will fall and the moon shall turn into blood. I mean, it's some really scary stuff when you think about it. So I think it's more of a reason for us to study harder, seek God more, because, again, everybody thinks he's coming in their time, but no one knows for sure. He can come at any moment, but you have no idea. So I think it's good for us to have these conversations, good for people to study for themselves and see what they can glean from it. and just be on guard.
Y'all think, hey, this is just opinions. Y'all think God's coming in this lifetime, our lifetime?
I feel like it. I feel like yes. It feels like it to me. I'm not gonna lie.
You trying to tell me like another 200 years this thing can go on? I don't know, man.
I don't know, like 200 years.
This is kind of.
I mean, I see like a peace treaty happening, in the Middle East that'll kind of calm things down for a period of time, but not 200 years.
Too, another thing too is to keep an eye on Israel, man, because a lot of biblical prophecy is about obviously Israel, right? The initial chosen people of God, and it's going to be a lot of countries that come against Israel, and I think that's a big thing too.
That's
to look
a big
for,
sign,
which we didn't really get into detail about tonight, but that's going to be a big thing to look for. So like that's another thing. As long as the U.S. is kind of with Israel, I'm like, well, maybe not so much right now, right? But like, it's gonna be a time where like everybody is kind of against that country, and that's gonna be a sign that like things about to happen.
That's a great point. That's why the prayed
And
up
what
ones,
made me just
the prayed up ones gonna have a sign. You know what I'm saying? They gonna be like the ones that can see the thief in the night coming a little bit.
I want to ask you a question though, since you just mentioned that, because it just made me remember the movie Thor, when he was saying Asgard is not a place, it's a people. So like, is Israel
Okay.
is Israel really as far as like how it's considered in the Bible and in the end times? Is it considered as a place or as a people? Because then if we consider it as a people, then we might not be so much focused on like the land being infiltrated, but the people of Israel.
Like that's a huge question I thought of. Like, how are we sure that the people with is it the white and blue star right now that I think they have? Like, are they the Israel? You know what I'm saying? Like, or as Fortunato's talking about, is it the people who've been grafted, those kind of people? But it's a good question.
Yeah, that is a good question. Sure.
Yeah. I guess when you break it down, it really doesn't have any consistency, right? We say like, oh, we all grafted in, but then we still just look at this particular land of like what's going on over there. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it doesn't really come all the way around. Good point.
Yeah.
We'll hold it for next time.
Hey man, we're going to hold it for next time. This has been another tantalizing hour with the Hold Your Point podcast. We are the Hold Your Point podcast crew. And as the fella says, no man knows the hour or the time. But I can definitely tell you all that I know it would not be Wednesday and Thursday at the same time. It would not be 5 o'clock in the afternoon and 7:30 at night at the same time. So that much I could let you know. But until next time, man, just stay prayed up, stay focused, stay vigilant, because the enemy is a roaring lion seeking who he can devour. And until next time, man, we out of here. Make sure you like and subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, wherever you find us at.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is DTH of the Hold Your Point podcast crew. Thanks for watching the video. We really appreciate it. If you like our content, please like and subscribe and share. Get the word out about us. We got a lot of big things coming your way. And stay blessed.